Hey everybody, it's time for another wrap up. I hope you're ready to hear about 5 more amazing books that I've read this year. I cannot wait to tell you about them, so we better get started. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing? It is a crazy world we live in right now. In the Bay Area here in California, we are officially on sort of this lockdown. We are not supposed to leave our homes unless we go to the grocery store or to the doctor, maybe the veterinarian for our pets. If you are a non-essential worker, you have to work from home or you do not work at all. Our libraries are closed, our restaurants are closed, our bars are closed. Yeah, everything is closed. We're all staying the required 6 feet apart, and it is a very crazy world we live in. So I hope with all my heart that you are all safe, that you are with the ones that you love, and that you are, making it through this time in our lives. Because let's be honest, it's taken some fortitude, is it not? So I wish you all the fortitude that I could send through this camera. Today I'm here to wrap up 5 more books that I've read recently, and they are 5 very good books, very different books, but all worth reading. So as always, get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your TBR, get out however you keep control of your TBR. And I should have said get out your Goodreads, however you control your TBR. Goodness gracious, I'm all over the place today. If you are so able, please order these books from your local independent bookstores. They need us now more than ever. If you can just order one book, it's better than anything, because a lot of them, at least I know in California, are closing their doors. So they need our support more than ever. If you cannot, that is fine. Do what you can to support your local businesses, because they need us as much as possible. And if you are a library user, order these books from your library. I know all the libraries in my part of town are closed, and are closed at least in through April, if not longer. So if that is how you got your books, I hope you have a whole stack of them, and that they are there and waiting for you to read. Pre-order these on the library website so that they are there when you get in. Okay, so let's get started. The first book I'm going to tell you about is These Ghosts Are Family by Maisy. This is actually out already. I ordered a copy from one of my local independent bookstores, and it's officially on its way to me. This is the story of a Jamaican family. It's sort of like a family saga told through time. It starts with sort of the patriarch of the family. He is an older gentleman. He's sort of at the end of his life. He's in a wheelchair. He brings together 3 women. 2 of them are his daughters, and 1 of them is his granddaughter. One of his daughters has thought him to be dead for the last 30 years. We find out that he grew up and was married and started a family in Jamaica, winds up going and immigrating to the UK in order to earn money for his family. There, he fakes his death and walks away from the family he had in Jamaica, marries another woman, and winds up in the United States. What winds up happening in this book is we learn a lot about the family, all of the different members of the family, from him and his wife and their decisions, how they came together, how they had their children, what their relationship was like, his decision to go to London to work, and then also the reasons that, and what happened to his life after he faked his own death, what happened to his ex-wife, and what happened to his children, his grandchildren. And sort of what happens is you sort of get this cornucopia, this onion effect, where this family, this man, this patriarch is at the center, and we learn about the other layers of the family. It is fantastically done, beautifully written. I will say my only sort of caveat to this book at all is that the last chapter is sort of like this take on like this folklore chapter, or like this folk tale section. I'm not sure that I am an intellectual enough reader to have gotten all that was meant to be, but it's beautiful, and it's sort of a beautiful closing to this sort of family saga. I loved this book. I thought it was very good. I think a lot of you guys will like it. And so that's These Ghosts Are Family by Maisy, out now from Simon & Schuster. She's a librarian by trade. I believe she works in the New York Public Library system. Yeah, she's great. Great book, great book. Okay, next is a book called The Majesties by Tiffany Tsao, and I'm going to hold her name in this cover up because this cover is gorgeous. Thank you very much to Atria Books. They sent me this beautiful finished copy of this novel. So this is the story of a very, very wealthy Chinese family that currently resides in Indonesia. They are sort of involved in a bunch of, let's just say, economic adventures that are not always up board. And at the heart of this book is the story of two sisters. And at the start of it, what happens is we have find out very quickly that one of the sisters has poisoned the entire family and everyone has died but this other sister who is currently in the hospital in a coma. And what has happened is she is now reflecting on the life of her family, the life of her relationship with her sister, her schooling, and they travel a lot. They are very, very wealthy, and sort of the dynamics of that wealth and the how do I want to put it, and sort of how that wealth plays into who the family is and becomes, and how the sisters see not only themselves but their family, and as they grow more aware of what their family does, how they sort of create a different opinion. This book is sort of like a murder mystery, but it's also about the relationship one has with one's family. So it has more of an introspective note to it. The main character is telling everything through memory, and memory from a coma. So some of it you wonder, the reality of it, the truthfulness to it. Does all of it fit together? Do the stories sort of coincide? I really, really enjoyed this book. I thought it was intriguing. I thought that the family was well thought out. I thought the two main characters were really well plotted and developed. And I was really bought into the story. I wanted to know what was going to happen next. To me, it was a fantastic read that ended with just the right amount of twist, I got it. That I got the book, and I enjoyed it very, very much. So that's The Majesties by Tiffany Tsao. This is out from Atria Books, and you can get your hands on it right now. Okay, another book that is currently longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction that I know a lot of people were excited about and have talked about, and that's Weather by Jenny Offill. And I read and loved Department of Speculation. I thought it was a fantastic book. And if you liked that book, I think you'll very much like this book. Jenny has her very unique own style. So this is a story of a woman who, how do you even explain this book? She works in a library. She was a PhD student. She wound up not finishing her degree. And on the side, she answers emails or letters sent in to her old professor mentor's podcast. But the letters sort of key us in to different key issues that Jenny wants to tackle. And they're not all sort of pessimistic or focused on a certain topic. They sort of make both the narrator and the author discuss the world in its entirety. But it really has a focus on weather and climate change and how that is changing the world that we live in. There's such a poetic nature to Jenny Offill's work. I don't even know how to really explain it. Everything is done in short, sweet sentences, short sections. She moves the story along really quickly, but at times will take you out sort of for a philosophical treatise. Does that make sense? Yeah, I really love this book. I thought that it was fantastic, thought-provoking, beautifully written, but Jenny Offill is a writer that really fits my sort of style. I like books that are less plotted, more character and thought and philosophically driven than your standard. If you need like a plot, a book that has a plot, this may not be the book for you. But if you want a book that's going to sort of open your minds to the beauty of language, to the beauty of the art of the novel, and also just make you think on many different topics, I highly recommend Weather by Jenny Offill. This is out from Knopf. Yeah, it is a beautiful little book. I loved it very, very much. Okay. Now, the next book covers a very, very hard topic, and I believe this book actually is coming out March 24th. 4th from One World, and that is The Undocumented Americans by Karla Cornejo Villavicencio. And how to describe the book. So Karla, in and of herself, is a recipient of DACA. She's a dreamer. She is here. Her and her family are here on Undocumented Americans. She is one of the first undocumented Americans to be admitted to Harvard University, and she is currently a Yale PhD student, I believe in American Studies, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's right. So this book is what I'm calling sort of a meta-fiction. Basically, we get her sort of narrative discussion of her own life, her parents' own story in regards to being undocumented Americans here in the U.S. Of course, undocumented Americans, of course you're in the U.S. I get that now that I've said it. Her parents actually left her in Ecuador until she was 5 and brought her over. So there's even discussion regarding sort of that resentment again towards her parents. The book talks about being undocumented from her perspective as a school child, as seeing how hard her parents work, seeing what happens when work goes away. But it also focuses on the sort of the fictional part of this. Is she is interviewed and just talked about the undocumented American experience with so many different people that she combines them into fictional characters to tell a story. And she separates the book into different sections where she tackles different, the word's not dilemmas, let's see, different aspects of the life of being an undocumented American. She talks a lot, there's a very powerful chapter about how important undocumented workers were during 9/11. She talks about what happened after to them and their health crisis. Once they had helped with all of the rebuild and the teardown, they didn't have the opportunity in a lot of ways to get the help they needed for what happened to their bodies after that. There's talks about healthcare. There's talks about how do you get treatment. There's talk about school. There's just so much discussed in this book. It's eye-opening, it's heartbreaking, it's encouraging, it's empowering. It is amazing what people will do for their family. It's amazing what people will go through, how hard life can be. I think that and she has sort of I would say a journalistic tone to her writing, but it is a beautiful, if you like narrative nonfiction, I think you'll really like this book as well. It's being billed as fiction, but there's a lot of nonfiction in it. And it's a book that will at times tear your heart out and just stomp it on the floor and make you sort of aware of the different people that live around us, and really encourage us to be more aware and more educated about the situations of others. So that's The Undocumented Americans by Karla Cornejo Villavicencio, and this is out, I believe, at the end of March from One World. So the actual finished cover of this is gorgeous. So last but not least is a book that I picked up at my local independent bookstore, Books Inc., on a whim, because I had seen it somewhere and read a review and thought it sounded fantastic. And that is The Freedom Artist by Ben Okri, and this is out from Akashic Books. I'm going to hold it up there because I'm pretty sure that I am saying his name wrong. He is a Nigerian author, and he won the Booker Prize in 1991 for a book called The Famished Road, which I have not read. But I am very fascinated. So how do you describe The Freedom Artist? Now, this book to me is very much in sort of the legacy of Things Fall Apart. If you guys have read that, it's almost folklore literature. It reads to me like the Odyssey or the Iliad, sort of like someone telling us a fable, telling us a story in order to discuss and dissect and teach us about the world we live in. We have a main character. We actually, I would argue, have two main characters. It was set in a world where there's a lot of policing. The world is something called the hierarchy rules everything, and you can't sort of have independent thought. Books have disappeared. Art has really taken its own different turn. And our main character is in love with a woman who disappears. She is taken from the house, taken away from him, and he is searching for her. And in searching for her, starts to search for a meaning for who he is and his life. And he interacts with different people, from artists representing in the world that is current to them, to people who are fighting against it, recognizing that there needs to be changed. Our second character is a young boy who is being told a story at the start of the book and turns into sort of the story keeper, the history keeper for the people. And we learn about his growth in that role. He goes through some of these sort of mythical, almost magical sections where he learns not only about himself, but also the world he lives in. And there's this question sort of posed at the beginning of who is the prisoner, talking about the world we live in, the earth, the country, the city, the house, as a prison, and who really is the prisoner. And it's sort of this dissection of that idea, all told from sort of this African folklore sort of tone. It's beautifully written. There are sections I wanted to mark and read to you guys, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not one to read a lot of a book over it, but there's just some really poignant, beautiful phrases that then will start you sort of on a train track of thought. And also you're rooting for, I got to get his name right. Hold on. Karnak, Karnak. You're rooting for him to hopefully find the woman he loves. You know, can the people overturn the hierarchy? Can you change the world you live in? Is that possible? Who has the power to do it? What does it take to do it? It's all those ideas and those topics discussed in sort of this tone that just sort of feels like home, if that makes any sense. So that is The Freedom Artist by Ben Okri, out from Akashic Books, and you can get your hands on this now. It came out as an automatic paperback. So that those are 5 books that I've read recently, and all of them, you guys, I promise you, are well worth your time for different reasons. As always, if you're a return subscriber, thank you so much. I could not do this without you. If you are new to my channel, I hope you subscribe. I hope you stick around. I hope you guys are all safe, reading with your families, enjoying love and harmony, and we will all get through this together. As always, I encourage you to shop locally. Shop locally if you can, now more than ever, not only for books, but for everything you can. Let's keep our favorite independent businesses open as long as we can. And read globally. The world has a lot to teach us and a lot to say, and we're better for it. So until next time, I wish you happy reading, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.